Okay, hello, hi.
Hello.
Yeah! Woo! Applause, yes! Love the energy in here. This is great. All right, it's exactly 9 p.m., so we're going to get started. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Mia Janae Watkins. By day, I am the Creative Operations Coordinator for Riot Games, but by night, I am the Director of Community Development, for Black in Gaming, which we are representing here today. So let's hear it for Black in Gaming Foundation. Just a couple of shout outs. So we have a jam-packed weekend. We have our panel tonight, which you made it, so you're here. We have a mixer tomorrow in the Chardonnay room at 7 p.m. And then Sunday, we have a panel all about QA in video games at 12 p.m. up on the variety stage. And so you're here, you made it, it's 9 p.m. We're feeling the energy. We're really happy you're here with us tonight. I'm really excited to introduce our panel, or actually, I'm just gonna have you all introduce yourselves. And then we have an exciting program here about our panel. So you wanna make a game, which, if you couldn't tell by the music, is Imagine, your weekly nighttime show on NBC, Fox, whatever network that you prefer. So welcome to our late night TV show. So you want to make a game. So, woo! Applause. I'm going to start to my left and just keep the train of introductions going on down. So go ahead.
Okay, hi everyone, my name is Aria, she, her pronouns. I am an operations analyst at Discord, my official title, and I do a lot of other stuff. So on-sites, events, community outreach. I'm the co-lead of our Black ERG at Discord, which we call BAM. And I'm also a community organizer for the big Black in Gaming Foundation. So, happy to be here.
Good evening. Call me Ace, he, him, founder and CEO of 5 Mics. My team and I were building a hip-hop trading card game, so imagine Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, but with rappers instead of dragons. If you want to play afterwards, definitely hit me up, hit Clay up. We here, we got cards we can play right now. Well, not right now, we got to make a difference. So
That's the man in town.
we'll do it right after. Prior to this, was working at YouTube on the, man, what was I doing, yo? Hold on. I was working on the music team, operations, global program management, specifically on the label and publishers team. Prior to that, I was working at Facebook on the consumer marketing team from Bridgeport, Connecticut, Jamaican. Pass it on. Oh, and I'm in LA. I'm on the Black in Gaming LA chapter team, helping with events and such. I should say that again.
My name is Leo Freelo. I am an engineer at Unknown Worlds Entertainment, AA studio making Subnautica 2. You heard that? I am also on an indie dev team, so I hope to give you guys a couple different experiences in that regard. I'm also a Creole brother from Louisiana, so yeah, if I got any Louisiana folks in the chat, yo.
I know a guy.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I'll send him over to you.
That's the best I get usually. But I mean, that's the fun. That's why I'm here, you know, open it up. So yeah, that's me.
I also go by Evie, if you want to call me that. By day, I'm a social producer at Ubisoft SF. I am a progression producer and I work on X Defiant. But on my free time and at night, I'm working on an indie game with Leo actually, called Pacomo, and I am the art director and everything else that needs to be done for the game. So yeah, that's me.
I should also mention you can catch us in the indie game dev space. We have 4 amazing games for you to play. Evie and Leo are behind Pacopomo. We have other games such as Buzzkill Zero, Pan Jam Odyssey, and Clock Out at 2. So we have some really cool games for you to check out, so check us out. We'll be here all weekend. And yeah, so thank you guys for introducing yourselves. And now into the fun bit. I'm very excited for this part. We are going to have some audience participation because we are gonna make a game together, kinda, sorta. So, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna have one section where we're gonna allow you to dream. I'm gonna call on some folks to come up to the mic here. I'm gonna ask you a question. We'll reach you on as you're sort of chatting with us. And then we'll just sort of pick more people along the way. And then we're gonna have Leo and the team write down your answers on this beautiful whiteboard that we have right here. So then after the dreaming part, we're going to hit you with reality. And the way we're going to do that is going to be pretty fun. So we're looking forward to doing that as well. So if we can get our whiteboard into position.
Come on, Van White.
Cool. All right. I am actually going to pick on, or who would like to participate first? I'm down to pick people, but if you would like to participate, if not, I'm happy to pick you, and you can come on down. I see a hand. I saw your hand. Come on down. Let's give them a round of applause. Come on down. Perfect. All right. Well, tell us your name.
Yeah, my name is Riley.
Riley, nice to meet you. All right, so you're gonna kick our game off. So, give us a genre, any genre. What kind of game are we playing in terms of like what's the setting? Like, is it sci-fi? Is it fantasy? What are you thinking here?
Maybe fantasy adventure?
All right, we got fantasy adventure for the dream. All right, give me a setting. What kind of universe does this fantasy adventure live in?
Drawing a blank, so how about right here?
All right, MAGWest. Let's do MAGWest. Cool. All right, thank you so much. Go around the applause. See, that was very painless. That was really fun. So who else would like to sort of chime in on our next question here? All right, come on up. Go around the applause. Yes. All right, tell us your name.
I'm Gabriella.
All right, Gabriella. Gabriella. All right, give us a character name.
Character name. How about Earl?
Earl.
Earl.
I'm gonna go with Earl. Now, what does Earl do? Does Earl have any superpowers? Are they powerless? Do they have a job? What makes them special?
Do they have a job? Earl makes tea.
Earl makes tea.
Oh.
All right.
Ah.
All right. Thank you, Gabriella. Let's hear her. Yes.
Earl's cheese.
All right. So we have a fantasy adventure set in MAGWest with Earl who makes teas. All right. Who else would like to come up and pick on? I'm just gonna pick on you actually. Yes.
You would.
All right. Give us your name for the audience. Hello.
My name is Clay.
Hi, Clay. What is the art style for this game?
The art style for this game, I'm gonna go. Let's go spicy with it. Let's go feudal Japan.
Okay.
Feudal Japanese art.
All right, feudal Japanese art, like ukiyo-e art, so like the inks. All right, cool. I see the vision. All right, so we have the art style. Now we want an artist. What level is this artist? Are they like a really big time artist? Are they a really niche artist? Are they a small time artist?
Let's go mid-level indie following artist.
Okay, mid-level indie following artist. All right, Clay, let's give it up for Clay. Thank you so much. All right, who else wants to come down on The Price is Right or The Game is Right? I'm actually going to pick on the person with the fox ears. In the
Fox
back.
ears!
Let's hear it for fox ears.
Like the spotlight.
I'm so sorry, I couldn't because I really like, I've sung Senior Cosplay all day and I really like it.
Do you want music?
All right. right, tell us your name, please.
Matthew.
Matthew, all right, Matthew. What kind of music does this game have?
Like metalcore, hard rock.
Yeah, okay. We got metalcore, hard rock.
Feudal Japan, yes.
All right, so we got metalcore, hard rock. Now, who is there a band or is there a composer? Who is making this metalcore, hard rock music?
I have to go with the used.
Ooh, all right. The Used. All right, Matthew. Thank you so much. All right. All right, we have 4 more questions. I'm actually gonna pick on you, Agave. You wanna come on up? Come on up. Yes. Hey, let's hear it for Agave. Yes. Woo! Oh, music. Special request. There you go. All right. Okay, let's talk about cast. Which actor is voicing Earl in your game? Or celebrity, could be anyone. Make it first person that comes to your mind.
Oh no.
Second.
Okay, Cuba Gooding Jr. is second.
Okay. Cuba Gooding Jr. All right, cool. And just for kicks and giggles, who's the co-star? Who else do you want? We'll add another person for our cast.
Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers. All right, cool. All right, thank you so much. It's here for Agave. All right. Who else would like to come up and contribute to our game? I'm actually the person in the red hat. You gave me some good energy when we came in the room. So
yeah.
come on and let's come on down. All right. Tell us your name.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Nice to meet
Okay.
Nice to meet you,
Jeffrey. What platform are we launching on? Is it console, PC, mobile?
I'd say we go with the PC. I don't know if you want to go multi-platform or if we have the budget for that.
Do you want to go multi?
Yeah, what do you want to do?
I'd say we go multi-platform. Get it in front of as much people as possible.
All right, multi-platform PC. I think that answers the second question, which was, is this a single-player game or a multiplayer game?
Team master, let's go single player.
All right, single player. All right, thank you so much. Cool. All right. You with the mask. Can we have you come on up? Let's hear it for the mask. What's your name?
Senna.
Senna. Ooh, like the League of
Love
Legends
that.
character. Cool. All right. All right, Senna. How do you want to market this? Are we campaigning through social media? Are we doing like ads? Is it a big campaign? Like, how do we want to market the game about Earl, about this game?
Maybe word of mouth.
Word of mouth is how we're marketing it. Okay. All right, Senna, thank you so much. And we have one more final question. Any takers for our final question for this round? Who is brave? Who is brave enough to come up to the stage? All right, brave soul, come on up. Let's go. Brave soul, what is your name?
My name's Daniel.
Daniel,
Okay.
when are we launching this game?
Oh gosh.
Give us a timeline.
Let's say a year and a half.
Okay, we're launching this a year and a half from now.
Good check at that.
Good job.
Oh, wait, one more question for you. Now, so a year and a half from now, what's the date?
Oh god, that's a year and a half.
It's math.
6 months from now.
Plus 12 months from now.
Isn't that, I think,
Or random day?
National team.
is that February, 2026?
February? Ooh, okay, February 2026
Am I
is.
right on that one?
I'm actually not
I don't know.
that. We're gonna take your word for it. So thank you, brave soul. Thank you so much. All right, now we have. So our game is a fantasy adventure set in MAGWest with our character Earl, who makes teas And the game, the art style is in feudal Japan with the art done by a mid-level indie artist. The music, metalcore by the Used, voiced by Cuba Gooding Jr. and Mr. Rogers. The platform is it's multi-platform on a PC. It's single player, and we only know about the game word of mouth. And we're releasing this a year and a half from now, aka February 2026. So now we are going to introduce Evie, who is our producer. So remember those dreams I said you could have? We're going to take those away. Or maybe not. Maybe those dreams will blossom into a bigger dream. But Evie is our producer on the game, and she is going to see if these choices will actually happen. So we're going to start with our game. So our fantasy adventure set in MAGWest. We're going to start with the budget. So Evie has a D20 dice. So if she rolls a D20, the budget is $2 billion.
Oh.
Now, if she was a T1, you get $200.
Oh.
So anything in that range will guesstimate the price. So let's get a drum roll for Evie.
Big money,
That is a 9.
A 9!
D9. All right, so it's not $200. Let's give you guys $100,000.
Okay.
That's good. All right. So you have $100,000 for your budget. Now let's talk about the game mechanics. Let's see how much Earl can do in this game. Your D20, you get complex combos using buttons across the entire controller. The controller's the limit. D1, you just press the B button for everything. All right, Evie, let's get a drum roll for Evie. What do we got?
Complex!
That was a 20.
Yay! Earl can do everything! So many T's! All right, so you guys have some good money. Earl has a lot of cool moves that Earl can do making these teas in feudal Japan. Now, our art style was sort of the ukiyo-e, like ink art, feudal Japan style. Let's see if we can actually get that artist that we wanted. So D20, we get the most skilled artist in the game. D1, you get macaroni art.
Oh.
All right, drum roll for Evie, please.
That's a 13.
13, okay. All right, so maybe not the top guy, but you know, you get a couple of talented artists going on. So there you go. That's not bad. That's good. All right, now let's talk about that crew. So I'm sorry, the music. Metalcore by the Used. Now D20, we get the Used.
Wow.
D1, we get Used music. So that's what we do. All right, Evie, let's go. Do we get the Used?
That's a 3.
Oh no!
AI!
Time to look into that free stock music and see if there's anything that'll record. All right, now we got the cast. So it was Cuba Gooding Jr. and Mr. Rogers. D20, we get them both. D1, we get no one. So drum roll for Evie, please. Do we get Mr. Rogers?
I think we do. We got an 18.
All right. Oh, we got him. All right, thank you, Mr. Rogers, coming up. Rest in peace, but we need you for this game. All right, our release on multi-platform PC now. D20s that we get the biggest deal that we got in that sector. D1 we get released on PC, but it's on an unnamed console. So drum roll for Evie, please. What did we get?
7.
Okay.
7, all right. So, you know, maybe some of them know the PC platform that we're releasing on, you know, but that's not bad. That's on a blunt, so that's good.
Right.
All right, now we're near the end of this gaming process, so now it comes to marketing. So what do we say for marketing? Word of mouth. All right, so there must be a lot of mouths that we need to have this game. So D20, everyone knows about it. Everyone and their mama are talking about it, whispering about it. D1 is just your grandma. Your grandma knows about it. So Evie, who knows about this game?
Everyone's mouth!
You want to say it, Leo?
It's a nap one.
Oh man.
No one's mouth.
No one's mouth. Grandma loves the game, by the way. So there she goes.
It's one good mouth.
Now our last question. We are set to release in February 2026, despite all odds, despite having one mouth that we know of. Will this game be received well by players? So D20, the game is a breakthrough hit.
Wow.
D1, it is buried in the depths of whatever platform it is in.
Oh, it's down
So
there.
I need the loudest drum roll, the loudest drum roll you can see. What the hell?
Do that again. That's a 6.
Oh, that's 6, you know, so it's not buried. It just needs time to grow.
Yeah.
So we'll see that. And they're looking at you guys have made a game. So give yourself a round of applause. All right, thank you so much to our panelists. So that was fun, right? I didn't
Good
hear
night.
as much. We're done here. But our panelists know that making a game is not that simple. You know, as life often is not. So let's talk about, you know, what we just did, and sort of have you guys talk about your experiences about game making and the war stories that you have from it. So I would love to learn more about how, you know, what are your stages for making a game? You know, we have a plethora of different backgrounds. We have people that are in the indie game space up here, people that are in AA, AAA. So I would just love to learn, like, when it comes to your game making process, if you're directly in it or if you're supporting it, what are the stages that you see happening? And we'll start with Ace.
Oh, for sure. So I will start by saying, like, prior to 5 mics and coming up with that idea, I was already a creative. You know, I've been a hip hop artist for several years. Was able to hit the Billboard chart and, you know, have my own music and video games and things of that nature, headlining shows. And one thing that I learned in making music, especially in the way that I was making it, because I was simultaneously working at these like corporate jobs, so I wasn't depending on music to pay my bills, even though it could pay bills. It was like, that wasn't the point, right? I wasn't just trying to like make mainstream music and stuff like that. Was when I was making music, it usually came from a place of like, wow, I want to do this. This is like the type of stuff that I want to rap about, and this is the type of messages that I want to have. And finding an audience around that kind of music was more about like, who wants to gravitate towards the things that I like to make. Now, that comes with the trade-off of, okay, your audience has to like really like what you're doing in order for you to find success in that thing. Do you know where those audiences are? And so in thinking about gaming, for what we're building, this hip-hop trading card game, it's like, okay, dope. There's so many different ways in which we can find our audiences. It could be people that have played trading card games before. It could be people that love hip-hop. It could be people that are just, you know, nerds and they love anime and comics, and our artwork is a reflection of that, right? It could be folks that love Uno and spades but have never played, you know, card games before ever, right? And so figuring out like, what are these things that people might find attractive in the hook of your game, and going where they are versus just like, oh, I'm gonna make something that everyone loves. Like, everyone's not gonna love everything. But for me, what I found in making a game is like, you start off with like your cool ideas and stuff like that, but then you have to be like, does anyone want this? And that, it's like different, just going back to like the music stuff, right? Like being a musician in your bedroom, you could do that. No one has to give you permission to do that. You could do that all the time. But as soon as you go into the business aspect of like, okay, I have a product, is there a demand for the supply that I have? You do like inevitably have to think about where is this going to go? And so like that process, the dice roll in real life is like tailoring what you can do with what is the actual realities of the market. Like the whole like, oh, only your grandma knows. Like maybe your grandma cares because she's the only one that like wants to support this idea because she just loves you. And sometimes you do start off with just like your friends and your loved ones loving what you do, but like how do you get that next person to love what you do? And that effort of like connecting what you're building with your target audience is a lot of work, but I don't know, it's rewarding if, for me, it's rewarding if you actually love what it is that you're doing too, because the flip side is that you're always just building something for someone else and you yourself don't care. And personally, I just don't want to be in that space. I guess that's how I take that into like real life practice.
I think that that also leads into sort of the difference between like an indie dev trying to make their passion project with a team that's a lot bigger. Let's say a AA team that has 80 people under their wing, right? Like, if the CEO or if a group of people come and pitch a really good game, it's like they could be the most passionate people in the world, but if we don't find a solution for the actual like people getting paid at the end of the day, then that's an issue, right? So I think one of the things I see different between indie and AA is that often it's there's a lot of caveats to everything you pitch. There's a lot of like, okay, but like, do we have to hire more people for this on the team? Like, do we have the opportunity to take the customer base that we already have and transfer them to this new IP, right? I think as you get over and like up the ladder of like AA and AAA, it becomes really difficult to stick with those like morals and those like really like this is what I want, which is sort of why I ended up like wanting to do a lot of work on the side in the indie scenes. Like, okay, I want to really like focus on like what I want and what I know will get an audience. Sure, it might not have a huge audience in order to pay 80 people, but hey, we only need to pay 3 people, right? So we end up with a game that we're all proud of and with no like asterisks attached to it. So that's been my experience with that.
I want to say, I just want to jump on what Leo and Nathan said already, but I think success is defined by you alone, and you're the one who just defines like what you want to do and what your goals are if you want to make a game. Like, maybe you're okay with just being in AAA and having a stable job and whatnot, or like maybe you want to do something on the side, make an indie project, make some make a name for yourself, a new studio, things like that. And I think it's just a balance of like having goals, like knowing what you want, but also like being realistic and like caring for yourself, caring for your like own financials and whatnot. But also just don't be afraid to take risks sometimes, as long as you're in a healthy environment to do it. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Let's kind of touch on, I think Ace, you kind of brought something up that was really great about, like, does anyone want this? How do you know what players like? Do you follow the trends that you see in other games, or do you set those trends? Do you take a risk and create something totally new? Kind of like what we just did tonight, and then just sort of roll the dice and hope that it works?
Yeah. I think there's ways that you can take calculated risks. I forgot where I learned this, but oftentimes innovation isn't like some crazy wild thought. It's usually like 1 to 2 notches improvements of something that people are already familiar with. Facebook wasn't a wild idea. It was an iteration of MySpace, right? That kind of thing. And so, usually it's that, right? But the way that you package it, the way that you communicate it, but then also just listening to what people say. Well, listening to what people say, but also not listening to what people say. Sometimes people will tell you that they like it, and they do like it, and you're like, okay, cool, they like it, therefore they like it. And then other times people say they like it, and they're just saying they like it because they don't want to hurt your feelings. And so you have to know how to like really decipher real feedback from people, which is usually like both what they say, but also what are they doing. If you're making a digital game, like how long are they playing for? What are the analytics on that? If you're playing a physical, or if you're building a physical game, like are they like catching the rules fast? Are they teaching other people? Are they getting up and leaving and being like, that was dope? Or are they just staying like nonstop playing? Yo, you gotta come play, right? Like you catch those things. But with a game, the key question is, are people having fun? Like all the other stuff, is the juice there? Is are there bugs or no bugs? Like all those things, like those are cool for us to answer, but like, are they having fun? And like, there will be some people that are like upset while they're having fun, and you gotta look at that and be like, yeah, this is it. You know what I mean? Like this is a good thing, because they're probably having, they're upset because they lost and they're so passionate they want to win, but that will just get them to play again, right? And so, yeah, are they having fun? I guess the long story short.
Well, there's something for me is I think that you kind of naturally come across who your targeted audience is when you're coming up with the idea of what your game is supposed to be centered on. Like if I want to make an anime themed game, well that kind of tells me anime fans. That's a very broad spectrum, but at least it's more targeted than just say gamers, right? So what you start doing is the ideas and the concepts that you're coming up with, you start thinking about in what groups is that something prominent? What do I want to get across? So like for me, I'm really interested in visual novels, and I really love them. Like it's one of the things I'm the most passionate about because I think there's so many tools and unique ways we haven't really explored that medium. It's one of the mediums I feel people get really comfortable in kind of just doing what's expected, and so when a game comes out in that field that does something different, it's always really noted. So I love them. And that, knowing, okay, I'm gonna make a visual novel and I'm gonna base it on, it's gonna be in like an otome, so it's gonna be romance. Okay, well now I know my shoujo fans, so my girlies, and then I'll make it 90s based. Well, that's nostalgic. Okay, well now I might be shooting for a demographic that grew up with Sailor Moon and Cardcaptor Sakura, and then that kind of just unravels. So really, it's about finding ways to connect your ideas to audiences that already exist. And it doesn't mean there can't be crossover. You can have people who don't fall into any of those buckets at all. And there's like games like Undertale, that's what happened, or Amori. They had people from all kinds of various places who got really invested in this game because the game just had something unique. But you always have a target audience, and they kind of shape all of the decisions that you make following that game.
Let's talk about money. Let's talk about, because I hear a lot we're talking about ideas and the heart behind those ideas. And sometimes when it comes to like getting those people or like getting those resources, sometimes that money is a hard reminder of what you can or maybe can't do at the moment. So what has your experience been in getting funding for your games or working with teams that have been working to get funding for those games? And what's the challenges that you overcame to really make sure that your vision came through despite all odds?
I will say, being able to have shipped one game, which is Pokémon, which you can check out later. But I think one of the things that we did that was important for us being able to successfully do it is to like keep our scope small and like realize our boundaries of like how much we have to be able to spend. And we got like, I'd say like 20K from Game Heads, but like it was a lot of money, but also not a lot of money. And it's not enough to do your biggest dreams, but it's also enough to kind of like get you going a little bit. So I think it's just kind of like knowing what you have and then making the most of it. You can get pretty far with like a shoestring budget. If you're thinking creatively about like what's the best way to use it. If you have no money, there's always like Kickstarters and grants that you can apply for that don't sort of kind of come with caveats that could come if you have like a deal with a publisher or start getting into VC, which I know Ace probably knows a lot about, but yeah, that's just kind of my take.
I actually have a hot take that I think this is one of the places that as an industry we could be better because I feel like it's gatekeep knowledge, how you actually get funding. There's more resources now online than ever to learn how to make a game. And if you want, honestly speaking, like visual novels, there's this kind of system called Renpai, and you don't pay anything, it's free. So, and you could honestly, like, you're not an artist, okay, well, you're not shipping the game yet, right? I always tell people, go the cheapest route, which is free, and just use free everything, and then once the game is actually getting somewhere and you feel like you want to invest in this, then you start looking into money. I usually advise, like, don't just jump out the gate immediately spending money unless you just got it like that, and you can. But yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of funding. There's a lot of grants. There's a lot of organizations and foundations that provide money for these types of things. If they see that your idea, they see some like benefit in investing in it, they will. But it's just not, it's not standard knowledge, kind of like who do you go to? And I think also a lot of that funding is locked behind specific game types. like specific ideas. There's some foundations that are like, well, we will sponsor games that are like this specifically, and they hit this target audience because there's probably more of a mutual benefit for them. Some platforms will sponsor things, but you have to build on that specific platform. And I think that I really wish it was something that was more accessible. Like it was a little bit more common knowledge where we could go to get those resources. But I would say definitely when you start thinking about spending money, do a lot of research and honestly, network. I cannot express how important it is to have a good network of people who have more information and more like knowledge and experience than you, because they're going to be the ones that will be able to show you everything that they had to learn the hard way, and you don't have to do that. So that would be I think it's my hot take. I think it's one of the things we really need to be better about, is just kind of sharing those resources with our cheer communities.
Sure. I was just gonna quickly ask, like, who in this room, like, wants to make a game or has made a game? We can lump them together.
Hey!
Okay, maybe. All right, wait. I don't want to lump them together now. That was a lot of hands. Who has shipped a game? At least one. All right. Who wants to ship at least one game? Okay, thanks. There it is. All right, cool. Thank you. I really hit a dope point. Like, for example, I was talking to this person who I met at GDC, and he's like, yo, I know 5 mics, you need funding, whoop whoop. I know this guy at Samsung, VP, they wanna really have their Samsung store be like the store on these Android phones, and then like have people go to the Samsung store instead of the Google Play Store, and they're looking for games, blah, blah, blah. And so like, would love to pitch your game, 5 mics, to be in that like opportunity, and they'll like fund it, but like the trade-off is that you have to like build it on Android. It can only be available on Samsung, And like, I had to say no to that. For some of y'all might be like, yo, that's dope, let's do it, right? Like there's no right or wrong answer, it just comes down to like, what do you need for your company and for your business in order to move forward? For us, it's really important that we're multi-platform, we're not just on Samsung, we're actually, our digital version is like iOS right now, just because of the internal capabilities, so we couldn't even like make that play right now if we wanted to. So like, there's a lot of like internal things when you're in indie studio, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, there's corporations that'll give you money, there's VCs that'll give you money, there's publishers that'll give you money, there's crowdfunding, there's, getting out the mud, pre-orderings, DIY, bootstrapping. Like I had a corporate job while I was first coming up with the idea of 5 mics, right? There's so many different ways that you can make this happen. Friends and family, high net worth individuals that might not be your friends and family. So many different ways. It all comes down to like, what do you need, what do you want, and like, is it really money that you need, or is it like, capabilities, time management, getting people that just believe in your idea. Like shout outs to Clay. Clay, he joined the team. We didn't have anything. He was just like, yo, like, I like this idea. Like, let's make this happen. I can contribute this. I can do this. I can bring this here. And like, he's introduced us to some investors. He's introduced us to some new players that are just like, they fell in love with our game and they're spreading the word about our game, right? And so it's like, sometimes it's not just about money, right? Like, especially when you're bootstrapping, you're trying to get it out the ground together, but like, Eva was saying earlier, right? Like, there's so many different ways that you can just get out there, even if you don't have the like game jams, right? Networking, meeting other people that are building games, like, there's ways that you can get the idea out. It's, don't let money be the crutch. And like, as somebody that like, yeah, we did go the VC route, but also like, we spent a lot of time just biting our teeth and being like, yo, we gotta just push this through. That at the end of the day, it really just comes down to like, are there people there that actually want to play this game and find it fun? And that honestly has been the through line for a lot of the conversations we've had with investors and advisors and things like that. When they see that other people actually want this game, they get hyped, right? And so asking people for money, they want to know what their ROI is, and you have to be like, we are building a fun game that people want. And if you can prove that, the more you can prove that, the more you can have that kind of conversation. If you want to go that like investor route. You don't have to, that's a whole different conversation, so I'll just stop right there.
And to add a little bit to what Ace was saying, if you're starting a studio, or if you've got any ambitions after just one game, you really can have multiple different sources of revenue. Like, if you start with a publisher, sure, like, you might get screwed, especially around these days. But like, afterwards, you know so much. Like, if you got screwed, you know how you got screwed. And going in the second game, like, you could take that into account. Like if you think you can go self-publishing because you know that you could market it better than so-and-so can. Like, that's learning that you still learned from your first game that you can take over, and that's still money, honestly. So.
Right, you just said self-publishing. I'm trying to find the title of the book, but I mean, there's so many. Indie Game Publishing by Odal Limpach. Is that how you say the name? Odal Limpach. Yeah, and Limpach, right? Game thinking, think like a game designer, Cobalt Guide to World Building. There's so many resources out there. They literally just give you, like you were talking about gatekeepers, like they literally give you links. Here are all like mad links. Go click them and get the thing. You know what I mean? So like, it's out there. The info's out there, and you know, folks like this, like being in conversations like this, right? Like the information's there. So don't let budget be like, oh, I don't got $1 billion. I didn't roll the D20, therefore I can't make a game. Like, people be making games off of literally nothing. Like, you know what I mean? So.
You know, the time was mentioned, almost like time management. So I want to talk to Evie for a second about production, because I feel like having a very, like, not strict timeline, but having someone there to make sure that the game is being done from start to finish, is also on budget, is also released on time, can be very vital, can make or break the production of a game. So would just love for you to just sort of share your experience with the audience, or just sort of share any tips and tricks on, especially in the indie game dev space, like, you know, especially if you don't have a partner investor, if it's just you, like, how are you motivating yourself and disciplining yourself to stay on target for the dream that you are trying to have actualized?
That is a big question.
How do you do it?
Okay. I think production and like time management and like organization is a skill that you can learn, and that's a skill that it's good to have a lot of information from, learn from a lot of people, that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of my experience comes from just learning and like just learning from my failures and then implementing those to get better at production. The first thing I would say is like you should definitely have some form of like tracking, like your like a roadmap, or like you use Jira or Trello or some kind of organization tool to just kind of put your ideas out there and then like stick to them. I think one of the things I see a lot in games that aren't successful is not having a very strong like production like groundwork. People have cool ideas, they want to implement those, but they don't like realistically scope out how feasible these ideas are. Like
Like Earl making you the tea.
Earl making tea. I think we rolled a 20 for the making tea part. Like if you have a huge, like robust combat system, you know, that could take 2-3 years to make. You know, and if you're trying to ship a game within budget, it's like, is that feasible? Would you have to scope down? And I think at the beginning of like any project, you have to know what you're gonna make, and you have to pretty much stick to it. Obviously, you know, iteration in games is really important. You have to, you know, try what works, what doesn't work, that kind of stuff. But like, you should have an idea of like, this is the kind of game, this is my vision for the game, and then you just execute on that. If you decide to pivot, like in the middle of production, or you pivot a lot during production, then I think there's probably like room for concern there. So I don't know if that answered.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my thing.
Anyone want to add their hero stories or war stories about production and their experience?
Yeah, I can add a hero story. With Evie, we created 4 or so pillars, which I think often is associated with game design, but it's been so invaluable to have someone pitch an idea and have a center person who really understands the core pillars that we're trying to reach, also the budget that we're trying to reach, and the deadlines that we're trying to reach. Just have this objective truth of like, we can't do this, and it's been invaluable for our project. It's mainly it's the main reason that we're even able to ship in 2 years. So yeah, getting some solid foundation, I think, as Eva was saying, is core, and really carrying that out and applying it to every decision made is really the key to success.
Just to add really quickly, for those pillars on Pop Bubble, I looked, I think recently I looked back on like the first pitch we ever did of Pop Bubble, like the pillars, just to be like, oh, I'm just curious, like it's been 2 years, what does this like slide look like? And like when I look back on it, I like totally forgot about it. I see, I'm like, oh wow, this is like the exact same game we have now. It hasn't changed, and I think that's important to mention.
Yeah, I'll just add everything that y'all said was really solid. Scoping down and constantly holding yourself accountable. I think especially if you're in like the CEO realm, or the person, oh, this is the game, this is the vision, like I think it's the hardest to be like, yo, we can't do this, right? Because you're like, we can do anything that we put our minds to, but it's like there are real, budget may not be real to you, but time is, you know what I mean? And like that, and so like just being really real, like just using Clay because he's in the room, right? So he's like, all right, bet, like we have all these dreams, we sat, you iterate, like you come up with the ideas, you ideate, and then you like bring it down to reality, right? So ideate, we're coming up with all these ideas, oh, we can do this with the music, and when people are playing, the music can go back and forth like a turntable, and all this kind of stuff. It's like, cool, all right, bet. We got a month and a half. What are we actually doing? Clay's like, we can do 5 tracks, and that's it. Maybe a main page, right? Like, and it's like, that is the reality that we're going to work in and operate in, and then that's what you build off of, right? Now, to keep the dreamer self inside of you happy, you put that other stuff on the other part of the roadmap. That's the next part, and the part after that, right? And
Post-launch.
Yeah, the post-launch, version 2. But you give yourself more things, and what it allows you to do is be like, oh, okay, we don't have to do all this right now. Because the trade-off, or like the alternative is like, you're just gonna be busting like 25-hour days to do all the things at the time, and it's like, do you really, really have to? And it goes back to like, yo, is us doing the 5 tracks versus the interactive turntable going to inhibit people's ability to have fun? Like, you literally have to keep going back to it. Like, what are we doing? We are building a video game, right? And so like, what are these actual things doing to make the player's experience like that much better? And you really have to, right? Like, is it gonna be a feature thing that you roll out in the future, or is this like critical to gameplay, right? Like, and you have to like go like that. And then all the other stuff, you just communicate it to your people. Yo, coming soon, not now, but look at how our brains think. And it's like, yeah, we love your brains, right? Like it's the marketing stuff. We're not talking about it.
I do think there's like a level of self-awareness that you need to have, and like being just real with yourself. So I'll tell on myself. I'm the type of person, I have really big ideas, and the thing is, I can do it, I just burn myself out really hard doing it. And it's something I'm trying to be better about. Like next year, that's my whole MO, is like, you gotta pace yourself. I have a project that I started in 2021, and I just came out the gate with, the art has to look like this, I have to have this, I have to have this. You know what, I won't just tell it from her side, it has to be his side too. So I have to do both of their stories. And you know what, matter of fact, don't even finish the writing yet. Let's go to Act 3. Act 3 sounds really interesting. I want to focus on that. I want to get to the romance. I don't even want to build up the, you know what, actually, I should go back to the music. What if I did, I haven't even done environment yet. I'm going to do the world building. And so nothing got done. Because I was dabbling in a little bit of everything. I would do 2 pieces of art, and then I would move over to like a paragraph of world building, and then I would move over to 1 track of music. So I've got a little bit of all, but nothing. And then you start feeling like, where am I going with this? Like, is this even gonna happen? And you go through like the 5 stages of grief, and then you get another idea, and you're right back to it. And I think really it just comes down to like, what can you realistically do, sincerely, and then kind of tailoring back. I mean, there's a difference between you doing it yourself and then having a team, because then you can kind of give people tasks. But even then, I feel like it's even harder with other people, because if you're the person who had the great idea, you're wanting them to execute on this idea in a very specific way. So you have to have the self-awareness of when you need to take a step back and let the people that you hired do their jobs. And I think that can be really difficult. I think that, you know, it's really hard to stay focused and get exactly like what you want done in the time that you're allotting yourself. But it's a crucial piece, and I think that's really where production comes from. It's your foundation. It's kind of the be-all, end-all of the whole thing. It doesn't mean that you can't pivot or add more, because maybe you budget for free, but then someone gives you $500, and you're like, oh, I can add something now. Or maybe you were the only artist, so you weren't going to do a lot of sprite art, but now you've got 5 more artists, so you can improve. It's better to be realistic and then add as you can than to shoot for the moon and have to keep pulling back, because it will feel like you've lost in that way versus gaining. So it's a lot of like self-awareness and mindset, but also everybody is very different. Not all of us operate the same. Some folks are like me and we're like, if it's not exactly the way I envision it, I don't want it. And I admit that is a failing of mine. That's why I do stuff by myself. And then some people are like, if it even remotely looks like this, I'll be happy. I just want to ship a game. And there's nothing wrong with either of those ideologies. It's just you have to tailor everything that you do to that mindset to make sure that you're actually getting things done and that you're happy with what you're doing.
It's pretty powerful. Yeah, snaps all around. Another word I've been hearing a lot more is pitch. You know, I think there's the stage where you have your idea, you're making your game, and now you have to convince people to go all in or invest in your game. Or you have to convince the used to make music for your game, right? So, like, what are those skills that you recommend that you would need just to pitch, or sort of like, because you're going to talk to a whole bunch of different people. I think that's one factor. Also, I think, Ari, I love what you said about how not everyone is the same, and so some people might be more extroverted, some people might be more introverted when they're trying to talk to someone completely new and then say, hey, can you help pay for my game, or can you help invest money for my game, or can you make something cool for my game, right? So what skills would you recommend that we can all take away with when it comes to sort of convincing people to be a part of your project?
Public speaking, communications, you want to get really, really comfortable with, like, and this is something you can practice with your friends, being questioned. You got to get comfortable with it, because people are, if you're looking for investors, they're going to ask you a lot of questions you might not be ready to answer. And you want to be able to say like cool, calm, and collected, and see any like inquisition of just a way for you to grow. Like, okay, I want to make a visual novel. Why a visual novel? You know, you might be like, you might be stumped in that moment, but like, take your idea and start breaking it down. Why do you want to make a visual novel? Why do you want specifically 2 characters? Why do you want that theme? And like, the more enthused, not even enthused, the thing is like, in terms of being an introvert or extrovert, that actually doesn't play as much of a role as you think, because I work with a ton of introverts, so it's not like, I think there's this idea that you've got to be like peppy and able to talk and all this stuff. You can have a great idea and just be like the person who was behind the scenes. There's some really notable people out there like that. It's more so about how good are you at making somebody want to invest in your idea. How well have you thought this out? How well are you presenting it? Do you just have a Google Doc where you typed up like a paragraph and you got a couple images and you're like this? Or do you have a whole business proposal? Do you have an entire, like, I'm looking at this, I've done this research, I've done this, I talked to this person, I took these classes, I'm taking advantage of I'm coming to you for a budget because I've exhausted every free resource I can possibly get my hands on, and this is the next step. Then think to yourself, why do you invest in a game? What makes you want to buy a game? And then just replicate that. So it's a lot of like self-awareness, public speaking. You're going to need to be good with documentation, being questioned, feel comfortable enough to admit if you don't know something and that you need to do more work to figure out that information. And also just be okay with the word no. You're going to hear it a lot. Like whether it's yourself saying like, nah, I can't do that. It's a coworker saying they can't do it. An investor saying they can't do it. You got to be okay with no. And not just being okay with no, but what comes after no. What else can you do? Okay, I couldn't do this, but I can do this. Negotiation. That's why I said public speaking and comms, like communication is really helpful, because it'll teach you things like when you go to an investor, a lot of the times it's in person. So you want to learn to read things like body posture. How are you presenting yourself? Are you presenting yourself as someone who is unsure of their idea, not really like, you know, I don't know, I don't really want to answer. Like, you don't have to be extroverted, you've just got to be sure of your idea. You could be, as one of my best friends told me this, you could be completely unsure about yourself, but you cannot be unsure about that idea. You need to be very solid on what you're pitching. Like, you might be a hot mess as a person, but that idea is golden, and that's all that you got to worry about.
I want more snaps for that.
I love everything that you just said. The only thing that I'll say at the very end, because I agree with you, is investor. What I found, if you're like an early stage, the investor doesn't even care about the idea, and that's something that you have to like also take to heart. Like, you do have to believe in the idea, and they're going to read that as like, okay, this person really believes in the idea. But what they are going to look for is like, do you think you can do this, right? Because they're going to bet on you. And so, yeah, you could totally be messed up, but like, you got to come off as like, yo, I believe in this idea, and I believe that I can bring it to the mountaintop, right? Because they're betting on the horse, they're not betting on like the horse's jacket, right? But everything that you said was super solid and factual, like being able to communicate and all of the different things, like, you know, you got to be able to clearly and succinctly say your idea in a sentence, and you got to communicate what kind of game are you making, what makes it unique, and what is it like in a sentence, right? So like 5 mics, it's a hip hop trading card game. Think Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon, but with rappers instead of dragons, period. And I'll let your brain do the rest, right? And from that, you can get a whole bunch of, oh, are there gonna be real rappers in it? Oh, tell me about like how many cards you have in your hand, da-da-da-da. All those questions are welcome, they're valid, but I don't have to try to answer those for you because your mind might go over here and be like, okay, so you said like Yu-Gi-Oh, so, you know, does it mean that there's attack and defense? Or you might go over here and be like, okay, so am I gonna be able to build a Nas deck or a XXX Satoshi? And like, that'll literally be like responses, right? And you have to be ready for those kind of things, and when you do it enough times, you can kind of preemptively figure out, all right, these are going to be the top 3 questions that you're going to get, right? Like, is there going to be real hip-hop in the game, hip-hop artists in the game, you know, how fast is it, this, that, and the third. But if you are afraid to communicate the idea, or if you don't yourself really know what game you're building, then it's going to be really hard to have a conversation about the game to even see if people are interested in wanting to go further in that conversation. So you have to really understand what the game is that you're building, and that comes from just a lot of reps, a lot of reps. Yeah, especially for investors, they don't really care. It's just like, tell me in 60 seconds or less, I see thousands of these a day, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta, especially if it's like a VC, right? Like, is this $1 billion idea or not, right? And so you have to hear in your own pitch, like, what about this will make them think that this can make them 100x on their dollar? Because if you can do that, then you'll get the second question from them. Otherwise, it's cool.
And I would say 2 things. One, everything that we outlined for this like little session, those are actual things that you're going to have in your presentation deck. So you're going to want to be comfortable in creating like documentation, like a slideshow or some sort of PDF file that just breaks down everything. Like, here's the setting, here's like, and any assets that you can provide to fill in those gaps. If you don't want people asking a lot of questions, or you find that they lose interest if they don't fully understand an idea, because that's something too. If you're doing something really unique, they're not going to know how to visualize that. Like, if we actually gave this kind of game to someone, like, you'd probably just see like a hot mess in their head. But maybe if they had actual visuals or like a demo or something they could tangibly get invested in, then they could have a firmer idea of what you're doing. But also, if you yourself are not good at communication or documentation, that becomes one of the notches on your thing. You need to get a person who is. And there's a lot of companies where you don't see the CEO always coming out. They usually have a PR person, right? Or a community manager. You hire someone who's good at it. And that goes back to that thing I said earlier about self-awareness of what you're doing, what your intent is, and where you need the help.
I'm going to ask you guys one more question, then we'll open it up to audience questions. So you have the game, you got the money, you got the people to say, yes, all right, your game is out, it is into the wild. Now it comes down to the players, right, and building community around this game. And so how do you go about doing that? Like, how do you, is it organic? Does it just happen? Like, people just play the game and then they sort of like, they're the ones that kind of dictate, like, oh, like, we really like this character. This is our favorite character. We've written fan fiction about this character. We want like more of this character. Or do you sort of like set the path and then have people follow and then let it grow from there?
So this is the thing I'm the most passionate about. This has probably been the primary thing I focused on in my industry experience. And I've been in gaming since 2012. The community aspect is very different if you're going from like an indie mindset or if you're doing like AAA. I worked at Bandai Namco as a community manager, and we were doing a game called Rise of the Incarnates, and it was done by the same folks who had worked on Tekken and Soul Calibur. So it was automatically the mindset of, we're just gonna take these guys and move them over here. And it worked pretty well, but there was, and then, you know, you have to start thinking about what companies can I work with, and of course, if you're Bandai Namco or you're, you know, Machine Zone or something like that, it's a lot easier for you to go talk to some of these folks because you're in the same space. As an indie developer, you got a lot of work to do. And it's a lot of work, but it makes sense because it's that thing I said about networking. You really want to take advantage of every resource possible. So once you know your target audience, where are they at? Are they on Discord? Are they on Reddit? Are they on Twitter? Are they on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? Are they on YouTube? Is this game something that is it a fighting game? What conventions do you need to go to? What conferences do you need to go to? Where are those prime folks? And you need to get yourself in every single one of those spaces. You want to have networking. You want to know who the community managers are in all these spaces. You want to know who their PR people are. You want to make sure that they know you. You're going to want to have a business card. You're going to want to have a LinkedIn. You're going to want to get involved with every single space you possibly can, because all of that is word of mouth. And honestly speaking, word of mouth is the most free resource you can use. And just think about games you would have never played if your friends weren't like talking about it 24/7 and you went, fine. You finally played it. Me with Undertale. It's not even that I didn't want to play Undertale. I just got so sick of hearing Arya play Undertale. I was like, fine. And then I went, oh my God, it's amazing. Me with Final Fantasy. I'm on an endeavor to get all of my friends to play at least one. But it's really, really important that you get comfortable being in these spaces. And that's why it comes back to comms, because you basically are the cheerleader of your game. You are the face of it, you are the front, you are the loudest supporter. And you can't really support if you don't have anybody to talk to. So you gotta go out there, make a Twitter. And then you don't have to have so here's a misconception. You don't have to have every single social media, because not even the AAA companies do that. And sometimes they just do it to reserve the name, because they don't want anyone else to be like tweeting or messaging from that account. But again, it's like your core audience. Like if you're targeting younger kids, it kind of is like, yeah, you probably are gonna have to be on TikTok to some degree because that's where they are. If you're targeting, you know, YouTube and TikTok are like, I feel like pretty standard. Instagram it depends. I feel like TikTok's kind of replaced Instagram. It used to be Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and now it's become TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. That's the other one, community, streamers, influencers. Who are these influencers that have huge like communities and they're all gonna wanna play your stuff? VTubers is a big one that I know a lot of spaces are looking at. Like, are there any VTubers that are really into the games you're playing? I know at EVO there were a lot of VTubers who started playing Tekken all of a sudden, or started playing Street Fighter, and now there's companies going, we need to get these VTubers, you know, because like, oh my God, did y'all see that Doki Bird is playing Tekken now? Okay, all right, now it's gonna be Doki Bird at EVO, and there's gonna be Doki Bird like merchandise. And I'm not a representative of Tekken or Bandai Namco. I do not know what's gonna happen, but like I just see these things kind of naturally come about. So yeah, you wanna know where your folks are. And then in terms of building the community, actually a lot of people don't build. So it kind of depends. There's some game developers are like, I don't really want to be bothered with that. Again, self-awareness. I'm not a social person. I don't really want to manage a Discord community because they know their fans are going to make one. So that new game that came out, was it Fields of Mistria? Is that how you say it? How is that how you say it? I'm like 80 hours in. But like they actively did not want to run a Discord community, but their community is so passionate. They reached out and said, "Hey, can we run one?" And they're like, "Yeah, please do." Like that's kind of cool. So like sometimes your community will be so passionate and so enthused about the thing, they'll kind of build themselves. But like again, target audience. You know, they just happen to target a type of community that like blended over into Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing, things like that. And there are a lot of like modding communities. And a lot of them are already on Discord, so they just started naturally coming together. So again, everything that I say comes back to self-awareness and like knowing your product for a reason, because it is actually the foundation of quite literally everything. If I'm building a fighting game, I'm gonna go this route. If I'm building a visual novel, I'm gonna go this route. And then you start defining even more. I'm building a fighting game, but it's supposed to be an entry-level fighting game for new people. Maybe Evo wouldn't be where I'd go, but I might go to like a smaller venue. And then also being really aware that just because a place has that target audience doesn't always mean that it's going to be beneficial for you. Not every single convention, every single conference is going to be something that you need to be at, or it might not even necessarily have the target people that you're looking for. It might be a little too broad. Like San Diego Comic-Con has anime and stuff, but everybody knows it's primarily comic books, right? And then like they announce like TV shows, that's more of the focus. Movies, TV shows, general entertainment. So if you're making an anime-based video game, it's not to say that you couldn't go and find community there, but wouldn't Anime Expo probably be a better bet because it's just purely anime themed? So it's like a lot of awareness of that kind of thing.
I'm just gonna, thank you for the answer. We're gonna jump right into Q&A. So if you have a question, please come up to the mic here. We'd love to hear from you and answer any questions that you might have about making games. Don't be shy, we don't bite. Any brave souls in the audience have any questions?
I actually, if no one had a question, I was gonna say, does anyone want to tell us about their game? I'd
Yeah.
love to hear if somebody wants to make a pitch.
Yeah.
Thank you all for this amazing panel. It was very informative, and I love everything that you all were saying, spreading good wisdom, spreading good knowledge, and all that stuff. 2 questions. I think one is for Aria. You were talking about the platform in terms of building on something. Are there any platforms right now that we should possibly be aware of where there are opportunities for game developers to explore?
Oh yeah, this is gonna sound biased, but I'm gonna be really honest. Discord right now is looking into game developers that want, we're just at GDC this year, and they're looking at game developers that would be interested in building their games on Discord in our activities platform. So there's actually like sponsorship there, and they're willing to give you the tools, the SDK files. There's like a whole resource pool for that. So that's one I know of. And I think that, I'm trying to think, there's a couple other places too. TikTok is really good in terms of just getting people's visual on your like product, but it's not really something that is going to give you active resources unless someone just sees it and then reaches out to you for it. But in terms of like building up a community, and then just, there's a lot of game dev communities. I just recently joined them in the last couple of months, and I've had folks up at 3 o'clock in the morning who've been helping me work out my bugs and stuff, like in real time. And I've learned about so many internship opportunities. So that kind of thing is like so valuable.
Sorry, I kind of set you up. Sorry.
I was just going to say one that I know of. It's not a social media platform, but Apple. And I have the link. I just have to find it. But if you want to connect after, I can give it to you. But basically, for indie game devs, if the story is good, if the pitch is good, if the quality is good and whatnot, and you're building on iOS, they'll give you marketing budget to promote on their front screen and everything like that. And I don't know the link for Google, but working at Google, I know they do something similar. They have that kind of ad. I know Facebook has that kind of ad. I know Samsung has that kind of ad. Like, they have the bag for these things. So I know the Apple one, but yeah, they're out there. Not just the social medias, but corporations.
Thank you. Yeah, that's extra. That's very nice. I saw that Discord hat, so I kind of like prepped you for that one.
I mean, as much as I have my company, if I genuinely didn't see like the benefit in it, I wouldn't say. But there's actually a lot of like resources. Even Black and Gaming, in that server, we've been offering a lot of links and resources and support for folks who are looking to kind of get their game out there. Game jams are so valuable, y'all. I'm serious. That is a great place to meet people who can do the things that you cannot. And they're usually like, heck yeah, I'm down. Volunteer opportunities, if you have the time and you can dedicate it to getting into a company and doing something for free, that's still professional experience. And sometimes investors are looking for, have you had any level of professional experience? Or is this just like, you just woke up and decided to do it? Not that they won't invest in you if that's the case, but it always looks good to be like, oh, I actually did professional art for this organization and this foundation, and who knows who you'd meet through that experience as well.
Absolutely. The last question. Ace, you mentioned that you didn't take that deal from Samsung. And my question to you is, what other negotiable opportunities were there for a possible timed exclusive
With Samsung?
with Samsung?
If there were, so the thing was, it wasn't just whether or not they wanted it to be exclusively on Samsung. That kind of deal, which I did also turn down, was from a publisher where they wanted like a 5-year exclusive rights to, you know, both physical and digital, and they wanted to give us 5% in royalty, but only after they recouped on manufacturing and production. There was so much that my lawyer was like, we can negotiate this and this and that. I'm like, that's 15 things. I just, if the deal is bad, it's just bad. Like, I'm not gonna go back and forth off of a bad deal as the anchor point, right? So with Samsung, it really was just a matter of the fact that, like, internally from a dev standpoint, we weren't building with Android in mind to be able to pivot in such a way where, like, it would even be worth our time. There were so many other pressing things, but like right now, so we have a pre-order campaign for our physical version of our game, and that's lasting until October 20th. And so getting all of the stuff ready for that and pushing that out, and the feedback's been great, but for us it was like, okay, we gotta make a call. Should we spend 9-10 months learning how to build for Android and port all of our stuff from MAGWest to, you know, so that we could be a part of the Samsung deal? Which, by the way, would be one of many games that they're trying to bring on to do the same, right? It's not like Samsung's just gonna have 5 mics be on the front cover. Although they might, you never know. But, right, are we gonna do that, or are we gonna, you know, make this other play? So that's really why we turned that down.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello again.
Hi.
Forgive me if this was answered, I was a bit late, I think. But I heard related to what you mentioned about like working on something and then sort of thinking about another thing and working on that as someone with incredible, debilitating ADHD.
Bam!
Yeah.
Bam!
Yeah, neurospicy brain. I got the autism and the ADHD. So yeah, I'm just I help me. The main question I have is like, when you sort of get in these situations when you're working on a project or you're just like distracted and doing all these other things, and you sort of realize sort of the scope of what you're doing, and like maybe you don't have the skills to do it at that point. How do y'all keep going? Basically I'm asking what motivates y'all? Because yeah, I've been in that position a lot, especially with job hunting. So yeah, I'd love to hear.
As
That might be a really
someone
heavy question, but yeah.
No, I mean, actually, I'm really comfortable with this question. First of all, thank you for sharing that with us. I really appreciate your vulnerability there. But like, as someone who does have spicy ADHD, and it's pretty wild. Yeah, it's spicy. I feel like what helps me is I'm happy to just make progress. I'm just like, you know, I have a job that, you know, I do a lot of different things. I'm helping out a lot of different organizations, and so my free time is a lot less than it used to be. So when I make any kind of progress, I see that as a win. And that's why I said it's really important to understand, like, what are the optics of what is success for you? Because success for you is not going to be success for me, or success for Ace, or success for Mia. That's going to be defined clearly by you. So for me, I'm just happy to get anything done. When I finish a character arc, I'm like, yes, one thing off the list. And I have a whole checklist too, and I'll go, doop. I feel like I get a boost of serotonin when I see a little check mark on something. Like, yes, I did it. But I think, like, I won't lie, there's been times where I've felt super down on myself. Like, why am I even doing this if I can't reasonably make more progress? And I have some peers who, I had a peer, actually there was someone in Black and Gaming named Samara, and he was like, yeah, I'm working on a game, and within 2 weeks he had done more than I had in 6 months. And I had a moment of being like, am I wrong for this? Imposter syndrome, like, should I not even be here? Should I be working on this? And what it helped me was taking myself back to that original document that I wrote about why I wanted to make a game in the first place. And it has nothing to do with anybody else's speed or anybody else's expectations. I want to do it because I love games and I want to try. And I am trying. Every move that I make is a little bit more. And so maybe for you, it just comes down to defining what it is you want to do and setting a reasonable pace for yourself. Give yourself grace. Give yourself some love and like uplift yourself for every little step that you make. Now it's different in the AA space, like the AAA space. It's like you just got to get this shit done, like but and that's why I don't work on those things because I can't handle that pressure. Actually, that's funny. I'm really good under pressure. I'm not good at pressuring myself. Like I'm like, shh, this is for me. I'll get to it. But I hope that was helpful a little bit.
I'm sure it was.
I think Evie or Leo, did you all want to answer on this as well?
Yeah. I think I have some like my own tips for like how I deal with like the whole spicy ADHD thing. So like three things. I don't even remember what three things were in my head, but first thing that has worked for me is I realized that without some kind of deadline or some kind of pressure, I tend to procrastinate. I don't do stuff. I'm just like, oh, I can do it later because I have later to do, and later is like my whole life. That's like, 5 years down the line, I'm like, oh, it's later now, but like, sorry, okay. So what has helped me is to like put myself in, not like forcing myself, but like intentionally putting myself in situations where I know like I have very structured like times to do it. So like one thing that helps me at work is I have meetings like the whole day because I'm a producer, so I have to be in all these meetings. I can't not go to the meeting because I'm running the meeting. So if I wasn't at the meeting, then nothing would happen, and progress would stall. So I think what's helped me is like having these kind of like things in life that are being set for you, but you also kind of force yourself into those positions where you are held to a schedule or held to deadlines. I think that has helped me stay on track because I'm not like forcing myself to do it, but I'm also keeping myself structured that like, to me in my head, it's like, oh, if I don't go do this, I die kind of thing. So I think that has helped me. It might not help you, but like that's like something that has like helped me just kind of stay productive. The other thing is having a buddy. So finding someone who maybe also struggles with the same thing or not, but like wants a partner to like be there and like basically like keep each other accountable. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would love to have a buddy. I have a friend that like thanks me every time we like draw together and do studies. We're like, oh, thank you so much for doing this. I couldn't find anyone else to do it with. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's great. So that also helps. And then the last week you could play Pakapomo, which rewards you for staying on track and staying on your tasks with cute alpacas and new crops to grow. So
Nice promo there. I see what you did there.
Actually, all of this tied to like a sense of urgency and like an external force, and I find that works really well for me too. Like as soon as someone puts a fire on me, I'm like, I pop off the most. But the minute that there's no expectation, I'm like, bruh, the barest of minimums are about to happen because there's no expectation. So I think that, I wonder if that's, I want to research that now. Is that like a common ADHD thing? Like, will we do better with just more structure?
Mia, I want to add too, because yes, just everything. So, five people that you need in your life, right? You need a buddy, someone that's in a same kind of like space as you, making a game, on the journey, Y'all can vent to each other, talk about stuff that no one really understands because y'all are doing it in the same space, right? And no one's gonna judge you for it. You need that. It's like going to the gym, you don't wanna let that person down, right? They woke up at 6 a.m. to be at the gym. Darn it, I'm gonna be there at 6 a.m. too, and we're gonna talk about how tired we are as we're lifting these weights, right? You wanna have everybody. You wanna have an advisor, someone that is not your boss, right? But is there for like counsel and advice, and you look up, and because you don't want to be in a situation where you have to feel like you have all the answers when you really don't. You're a human being, right? So you need somebody that you can like just lean on and just be like, yo, I don't know, can you help? Or I'm thinking this or that. I feel like it's this. Is it really that though? Right? Just that, right? You need that. If you can get an investor and it's not just, you know, a big craft of the world, but just someone that has their own skin in the game, you're gonna be like, wow, I don't want to waste their money. Like that is a kind of pressure that it'll do something to you to be like, yeah, I'm gonna wake up at 7 and get started on the thing, right? Because this is no longer just the passion thing. This is like, I'm doing this for them, right? You want to have someone that has put their hand up and said, I want to alpha test, beta test, get the inside scoop, I don't care how janky it is, blah, blah, blah. Because what that'll force you to do is iterate fast. You don't want to be in a situation where you're just building the game for 10, 9, 20 years, in your head, and you're doing but then you put it out and you're building with this mindset of like, oh man, I'm building, it's 2019, but we're years ahead and things have changed, but when you have somebody that's like, yo, I want to play right now, you get the new thing out, they can test and be like, yo, I like this, but I don't like that. What that forces you to do, instead of thinking about all the grandiose plans and that you have, you're like, yo, I'm gonna fix that, so it can be better for that person, right? And you give them the new version, like, ooh, I like this, it'll force you to put yourself in a situation where you're actually building a game that people can play and people are enjoying. And the last thing that I'll say is someone that is not attached to any of the stuff that I just talked about. For me, that's my spouse, right? She don't care, she don't know, She just wants to make sure I'm alive and well, and if she sees that I've been staying up till 2 a.m. for 7 days straight, she's gonna be like, yeah, so you're not gonna work on this game for a while, right? Let's go out, let's go get some food, let's take the kids on a walk, whatever, but like, someone that can just detach you from all this stuff, because this is not your life. This is not your life, right? So, those 5 people, get them in your life, and I feel like you'll have all of those structures in place to be able to make it.
Thank you for your question. I'm going to go for our last one. Yeah. You'll close
Thank
out.
you all so much. That was wonderful.
Go ahead.
All right, I have a question, but you suggested, so I'm going to try and pitch also, okay?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's hear it.
All right, so it's a game that's a mix between a factory game and a tycoon game, where you start off just freelancing, doing IT help for a small company getting started on the web. Well, they end up getting bigger, you get sucked in, and you continue to help build that company and even work on others, helping solve system architecture problems that exist in the real world, until by the end, you're literally solving the real world type problems that giant companies like Facebook, YouTube face today.
Ooh. Let's hear it for the pitch. Yes. I like games where I walk away with new knowledge and skills.
My background is teaching software engineers, so it actually would play like a game, because it's a game, but you would actually be solving the very problems that people interviewing for jobs have to solve in the interview.
You saying that's exactly what my head was. I was like, this must be like teaching you how to be a coder for these type of roles.
Exactly, like system problems, So my question is, as I'm sort of sorting this out, like, okay, how do I do this? Because I've did a handful of game jam games. I have lots of skills that are actually helpful in sort of moving forward here. But one thing that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit is like, part of it is the business side, but what I'm thinking about right now is, okay, if I stream this and stream working and stuff, that's something on my mind. Do I need to be thinking about what I'm exposing? Like what? Because I don't have the ability to work super fast, right? So is it a problem how much I'm exposing myself and what I'm doing, and how should I maybe think about that, or what strategies might you recommend?
You guys have 2 minutes.
Okay. When you say stream, are you talking about like streaming, actually making the game?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's great, because you will find that there are a lot of people on Twitch who have the same interests and ideas as you. You will find a community that's really interested in your product. That's what I was going to say is when I heard you speaking, it's like you understand this topic more than anyone you're probably pitching to. And so I would say really focus on the audience. Like you know your audience and make sure that you know your audience and focus on that audience. Like if your audience, it seems like your audience is relatively niche, so don't go with expectations of a blockbuster on the front page of Steam, right? But you going in with the expectations of oh, I'm gonna form this coding community that not only is here because they already know how to code, but also want to learn to code. And we'll see you making the game along the process and sort of grow along with the features that you're adding and the way you're talking through. I think that is bigger than anything. Because then also, at that point, they're following you, right? Not necessarily just the game.
Just plus one on that. The biggest flip that you could do, it's not about the game itself. The game could be fun and but exactly like you said, because it is niche, it's not gonna be blockbuster, but people want to. I learned how to code all of August. I started at August 1st, August 20th, got the certificate, right? I would watch that, right? I would watch, and I'd watch more. And if you're showing me the steps on how you're building the game, that'll just, right? And so you're building an audience of people outside of just your game that want you, that's bigger than the game. I think that's a great play.
I'll say really quick, super fast, is actually when I heard your question, I thought it was more centered around are you exposing too much of your idea? Okay, to that, I would say that I'm someone who doesn't share a lot of what I do because I can't stand seeing that it might be replicated. So I would say you need to figure out what part is super unique to what you're doing versus what other people are doing, and that secret sauce, keep that to yourself. But the stuff that's more standard or typically what you would see in other spaces, I think you can show that. But you never show the whole thing. Even AAA companies never show the whole thing. There's always something. You got to keep a little bit of the magic, but only you can determine what that is.
No, thank you so much for your question. Thank you all so much for attending our panel. Let's round of applause. Yes, if you are around, we'll be outside. You can talk to us, and we have some goodies for you. So please come chat with us. So thank you all so much.